Welcome back, degenerates. In this video, we're taking a look at the Rangemaster 2. This is not a review. It's more of a showcase of a thing that piqued my interest because it's clearly not your typical looking wristwatch. From the minds of Long Island Watch and TGV, it's the only version of the Rangemaster that I absolutely had to have. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with the first two versions, but this is the only one that I could not resist. I am not a fan of Islander watches or TGV. That's not to say that I dislike them, I just simply wouldn't care one way or the other if they existed or not. The only reason I say that is for context. The context being that I'm not a fanboy, and despite all of that, I think this watch is out-fucking-standing, and I think it's worth it on its own merits. My first impressions were good. Right out the box, this thing slapped me in the face. All of the superficial things I enjoy are here. The heft, the finishing, the X factor, etc. It's all here. There's an Invicta-esque aura of razzle-dazzle which is undeniably fun, and if you know what I'm talking about, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. But is that superficial razzle-dazzle just a smokescreen to hide cost-saving measures elsewhere? I was curious to see what the Rangemaster looks like on the inside because that's where you can really determine the integrity of a brand. It's easy to polish something up and make it look pretty, but true customer service is having well-made stuff in the areas that aren't readily accessible. So being the degenerate that I am, I'm gonna penetrate this watch and get all up in its insides. To remove the case back, I have to remove the bracelet, which is a self-explanatory process. The watch comes with the necessary hex head screwdriver, and you just gotta remember righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Or was it righty-roosey, lefty-locky? Oh god, thinking is hard. I remember that there was a rubber cover which apparently is supposed to protect the case and help you unscrew these pins. Whatever it was meant for, I'm realizing here in real time that it's trash. It's fucking useless. However, I appreciate the thought process. And here we are removing the case back. Oh god, was it lefty-loosey or lefty-locky? And voila, here's what we have on the inside. I'm quite happy with this. Keeping my expectations realistic, understanding what to expect at different price ranges, and having experience with various movements, I say this execution is exceptional. I don't think any corners were cut. So from my perspective, I have a watch that looks good on the inside, even better on the outside, and overall just built like a brick shithouse. One thing I did find interesting is I don't think either Mark or TGV mentioned any influence from Linde Werdelin. They mentioned the Explorer and Explorer 2, but didn't acknowledge Linde Werdelin until people in their comment section brought it up. Which is crazy to me because how can you say this watch was inspired by an Explorer 2 when it's clearly a homage to a Linde Werdelin design? To quote TGV, he said,
"This is the Rangemaster 2. The whole point of the naming was because, well, the first one was very much inspired by the Rolex Explorer, a bit of Tudor Ranger.
Yes.
I was watching Starship Troopers and I had this idea of what would it be like if they wore one of my favorite Rolexes, but it was more futuristic. A lot of the designs of these watches are always vintage inspired, but
Right.
slightly modernized. What if it was really modernized?
And that is when you start putting pencil to paper.
To paper, yeah. So I did an initial design, I sent it to Mark. Your team, you really ran with it, which
Yeah.
I was so impressed. There was like 20 different versions, color coordinate, you know, because we've got two, right? We've got black dial,
Black
white
and white.
dial.
Yep.
Really great idea. You even loomed it, which I don't think I even thought of
The
that.
bezel? Yeah.
which
You
is
gotta.
fantastic.
Yeah.
This more abstract shape, the designer of Johnny 5 is a guy called Sid Mead. He's more famous for Blade Runner, Star Trek Motion Picture. He did that Elysium, which is a little bit more recently. A lot of like sci-fi stuff. And I have a book, and I'll put it in my Amazon book. Amazon store, sorry. I highly recommend it. As soon as I saw these angular shapes, I was like, okay, well then that's where we got to go.
One, right?
Yeah. You managed to skeletonize it, which I'm ready.
Implying that design was simply an extrapolation of a Rolex and some grandiose inspiration from futuristic space art. None of this bothers me, and I'm not angry about it, but it's just something I found peculiar. And who knows, maybe they brought it up somewhere else and just not in that discussion. I have no issues with people taking gratuitous liberties on watch design, and to be fair, I would have been none the wiser if it wasn't for the comment section. Playing devil's advocate, if it wasn't for the Rangemaster 2, I would have never known about Linde Werdelin in the first place, and that is now a watch brand that I want to add to my collection. I just don't get why the name Linde Werdelin was never brought up in any of their Rangemaster 2 videos. Maybe I'm reading too deeply into all of this, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Anyways, despite all of that, the watch remains outstanding. I'd say the finishing is on par with a Bell & Ross BR05. It's metal with extra steps, and I'm all about it. Whether I'm inside or outside, in low light or high light, the watch just sings. The combination of good finishing and visual depth works for me. It tickles my brain pussy just right. I'm sure you degenerates have already seen a lume shot somewhere else, but I'm gonna share it again. It's definitely good looking. I'm not going to give my stamp of approval on longevity. I haven't noticed the lume lasting very long, but at least it's pretty right after you blast it with a flashlight. The max weight is 203 grams, and that's with all of the bracelet links, so it ain't no spring chicken, but I don't find it uncomfortable in the slightest. It's pleasingly dense, with a heft that offers the facade of value that I enjoy from any watch. I have to say that this is a watch made for enthusiasts. 100% you're only ever going to find this thing on the wrist of a complete and utterly hopeless watch addict. And I say that with pride because it's currently on my wrist at the time of this recording. That's not to say that it isn't a capable watch, which it is, which makes this fantasy cosplay watch even more enjoyable because it's shamelessly fun while still remaining brutally utilitarian. I do have one minor criticism, and it's in the crown. I'm only bringing it up because Mark specifically said they delayed production by a month to fix it. I think the crown is a little bit too well protected, and makes it just ever so slightly inconvenient to do things with it, especially if you've got fat mongoloid sausage fingers like me. Is that the crown's fault, or mine for being addicted to chicken wings? Clearly it's a failure in the design. However, I'm willing to overlook it because the build quality and crown action itself is superb. Form over function is never good, but function over form is equally lame. Overall, what we have here, I find a healthy combination of both, which equates to pure, unadulterated enjoyment. All in all, I'm very much enjoying the watch. I'd say the Rangemaster 2 was a risky move, and in this day and age, we need more people taking risks. In a world where everyone is too much of a pussy to do anything, I appreciate brands like Long Island Watch and TGV putting themselves out there. They say to be the change you want to see in the world, and I see that encompassed in the Rangemaster 2. If you don't like it, then I look forward to showcasing your watch whenever you're done making it. Until then, I'll rock the Rangemaster and prepare for the raid on Clendathu. Never forget Buenos Aires. Death to bugs. Kill them all. And stay classy, 'cause I sure as hell won't.